Some of the design choices for the L2 reference speaker. The design was inspired by Dieter Rams' design of the L2 for Brown in 1958 that you can see at places like the MoMA in New York. But we did make some updates, as you can tell. We downsized it proportionally, as you see here sitting on this shelf. So it fits on pretty much any bookshelf. It's very slim. I think 7 something inches. We also removed the front cover of the driver so you can see where the sound comes from. We framed it in an aluminum enclosure, which uses some space shuttle material inside to soundproof it. Pretty dead. Most notable, the integrated horn is a multi-cell horn that was inspired by the Altec 1005B. It's slimmer with 12 flutes in total. It's made of individual flutes, so they are assembled together, which is how it was originally done with steel flutes. You also see the front ported base. This helps so you can push it flush against the wall. So why is an external horn like this better than a coaxial horn where it sits in the driver? First of all, external horns are much more efficient. To convert the amp power into sound. An external horn driver can be around 2 to 10 times more efficient than a coaxial driver horn, which means you need less wattage, and this leads to less distortion at higher volumes, because your driver has to work less. A big benefit is obviously also the control where the sound goes. So you can have a very clear defined dispersion pattern, which means less unwanted energy bouncing off the walls and the ceilings. Most homes and most spaces aren't really well soundproofed, so this helps with that as well. In comparison, coaxials radiate more omnidirectional, so this makes it more room dependent and maybe has more reflections of the walls that maybe you don't want. Some people say the external horns are more dynamic, so it's faster in transitions and has more impact and sounds more realistic. In terms of positioning, because it's all mounted on the top, the horns end up being usually more at ear level. Like you can imagine like this. I'm listening to a speaker like this, and I hear the highs directly on ear level. This is kind of ideal because in floor standing speakers, often the tweeters are too low, and then the highs are very directional, so that helps with that as well. Another question that a lot of people have is, why is a multi-cell horn different from a regular horn? So a regular horn has a single horn that's usually flaring that expands the driver throat outwards. It controls the dispersion, but typically in a very fixed, relatively narrow pattern. Multi-cell horn is this cluster of smaller individual horns that are bundled together and all fed from one driver. So there's not multiple drivers in this. This is all like one tweeter. And each cell handles a proportion of the total coverage angle. So this one has like radiates here, this one radiates here. So you have obviously much more control of where the sound goes and can slice it. So an equal portion goes in each direction. And that helps with getting a broad coverage. So usually I explain it to people that in spaces you walk around a lot, like in pretty much every space other than a dedicated listening spot, a multi-cell horn is beneficial. So you walk around in your kitchen, you walk around in your room, you walk around in your living room, and that's where multi-cell horns are useful. It also has reduced beamings, so single horn tend to beam a little bit at higher frequencies, meaning the high end narrows significantly as frequency rises. Multi-cell designs spread that high frequency energy more evenly across the coverage pattern. It also looks pretty cool, so it has a vintage design character inspired by most notably Altecs that were used in cinema and large PA systems from the 30s to the 60s. Well, that was some of the design choices we made for the L2 reference speaker, and thanks for tuning in.